and the power of reinventing yourself. I have health expert, I make that healthcare professional, and now wine distributor, Miss Margot Verbenich Hunt. Margot, how you doing?
I'm doing great, John. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Listen, you got a nice operation set up for yourself in terms of what you've in some ways allowed yourself to transition into as far as wine distributing. Now, you talked about how you had kind of gone back to your heritage, visit your family in Croatia. You're a granddaughter of immigrants, and you kind of allowed yourself to kind of turn that passion, moving from healthcare, retired healthcare professional, and now you actually, in some ways, are making strides in a wine distributing business on this Wine Down Friday. So tell us about the journey and the science and method behind, the transition and what you're doing now.
Thanks, John. It really is an incredible story. I would never have imagined this ever occurring for myself decades ago. But I had a great career in the healthcare field. I worked for two major pharmaceutical companies. Both of them were involved in the production of medications made from human plasma. And my role in both organizations was in that of sales, marketing, and distribution of these products. I parlayed a career in pharmaceutical sales and marketing into home health care. And it seemed like a natural transition because as science and medical practices were finding out, patients were able to receive these products as safely in the home setting as they did in the hospital setting. So that is the business that I formed back in the mid-90s. And I had this company for 6 years and was very fortunate to have had the demand to expand it into the 7 states. And I was providing home care for people with certain chronic diseases that were being referred to us by all of the major medical centers throughout the Southeast. The company was Sunrise Health Management. It was very successful. And I really enjoyed working with the professionals that I did within the hospital setting. And this job was dependent upon the successful distribution of medical products. And
so you basically have had ties to distribution now for quite some time. So even on the healthcare side, you got the visual and as well as the knowledge of what distribution looks and feels like from is it transport, export, or how would you describe the distribution of it, or distribution operation itself?
Oh, that's exactly right. Here it was the distribution of pharmaceuticals within the hands, basically, of nurses that would be traveling to patients' homes. And it was a distribution chain within the medical field. This has evolved for me now to the distribution of wine from my sources into retail stores, into country clubs, wine shops, liquor stores, and such. And the other parallel here is how stringent the laws and rules and regulations are to make that distribution occur, whether it be in the medical field or whether it be into the wine field, the alcohol industry.
So now there is a parallel as far as the wine is concerned. In terms of health, everybody that I know loves wine. It's therapy in a way. It's used to for relaxation. Some people use it for health purposes. What parallel do you say in terms of looking at the two fields when you coming from the healthcare field in terms of pharmaceutical sales now to wine distributing? Is there sort of a science or connection there between the two that is good for health, that is good for sort of a sigh of relief or just overall just upkeep?
Well, yes, I've always had a passion and a hobby with wine. And, there are so many books that are written on the production of wine, the origins of wine. Wine, like medicine, has been around since the beginning of time. Wine actually originated in the state of Georgia over 8,500 years ago. Well, who knew? It's just so exciting that it was a miracle occurred to where a grape could evolve into a fermented product with alcohol, with a lot of enjoyment and sensation that goes along with having a glass of wine and enjoying the grapes. It's wine production is a science. Wine production is a miracle. It's a lot of trial and error, and that really parlays with medicine too. When I was back in the medical field, um, there are so many parallels, to the distribution of medicine, and then the distribution of wine.
So, I mean, throughout the pandemic, even, I mean, if there is one industry or some industries that have been able to stay afloat, could you attest or say that, this business or this passion of yours has been able to stay the course, with so much uncertainty and a lot of challenge for a lot of the industries, for the most part, of course, with the healthcare field still pretty much going strong, and shout out to all of our essential workers out there. But what about food and beverage, or in this case, beverage? How would you describe it to be sort of strengthened or even sustained throughout, these challenging times?
Exactly. When you think about with the pandemic that we've endured and are still enduring, what is the focus? It's medicine and the vaccination process right now, as well as people still trying to enjoy life in some way and trying to feel good about what is happening when there's been so much sadness in our world that has occurred because of the pandemic. And because of that, some people may agree, choose to disagree. Wine and the alcohol industry has done fairly well during the pandemic. Wine sales are surging, and there's no doubt about it. Wine brings people a lot of relief, good feelings. It's very social. It's it's a mental exercise to where you can feel just good about life, good about the moment. And I'm having trouble with this part.
No, you're good, but just not too much wine, but enough wine to keep everything afloat. Yeah, I hear it and I love it. Now, what message would you have to anybody? I mean, with you sort of staying afloat and being a part of sort of a trend of people that are learning how to reinvent themselves, in the business world, but yet staying true to who you are. What would be some of the advice you'll give to any, entrepreneur, or any person in general that's looking for that next venture to tap into or to in some ways pursue?
That's a great avenue to lead me into because as an entrepreneur, I have always talked about and preached, if you will, that you don't want to get into a business that you don't have some knowledge or background about. You don't want to get into a business to where if you don't have a passion about it. And just kind of reverse that. If you're going to do something, if you want to start a business, you've got to have a passion about what you're going to do. You have to have some knowledge. You have to know where to get further knowledge. You have to have a support system. There's so much that needs to be in your bag of tricks in order to become successful. I was fortunate because I understood distribution. We just talked about the distribution of medicine from the producer into the end user. And the same with wine is having a knowledge and being able to enjoy gaining the knowledge of how to bring wine, in my circumstances, from Eastern Europe, and how to bring these wines from, I began with the Balkan countries, my heritage of Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia, Moldova, Slovenia, and such, know how to bring these wines into the United States and be able to become licensed to where I am now a distributor. I did pick the most difficult time during my lifetime to start this business. It was just before the pandemic, when all of the restaurants closed, when tastings and events were canceled. And here I had a brand new concept, Eastern European wines. I had brand new brands that people had never heard of. And here I was going to introduce them to a public that was used to, and let's face it, most people, when they go into a wine shop, they go directly to the wine that they're accustomed to. Whereas when I started my business, I wanted to be able to incorporate a lot of my love of talking to people, of a little bit of showmanship, and of education. I love educating people about wines, about the grapes and the production and the labeling and where they're from, et cetera. There's a lot to it that can be simplified, so it's not intimidating to people.
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot too, that when people are looking at a new wine, they're intimidated by it. And I want to reduce that. I want to minimize that as much as possible.
So what do you want the brand name to be known as, Grbenich Wine? I mean, you put your name on it. I mean, that's your heritage. Those are your roots. So when you think about your name, what do you want the name to be known as, to be known by, and pretty much stand for when you consider the name you've chosen for your business or for this distribution company?
Well, this is that's interesting, John, because the name of the company, Grbenich Wines, is my maiden name, is actually takes a back seat to the brands that I'm bringing into this country. Because what I'm hoping to do is for people to know the brand La Chic, to know when they go into a liquor store, a wine store, or a restaurant, they can ask, do they have La Chic Rosé? So you see, that's where the name of the company doesn't really come into play that much. I am the backbone. I am the license holder, Grbenich Wines. But it's more like brand recognition. I would like people to say, what wines do you have from Kučevo, which is the name of the winery in eastern Croatia. It's the oldest producing winery in Croatia that produces many, many different types of grape varietals with fabulous wines.
Wow. So what would you name some of your partners? Any special shout outs or recognitions thus far, partners you've been able to bring on board or persons that you met along the way from a business sense of you building a brand and continuing to share the message of your business? Any special shout outs or persons, partners you like to recognize?
Thank you. Oh, yes, absolutely. When you start a business, you need to have partners that will believe in you and will support you in the endeavor. And I have a lot of appreciation for a couple of my importers that believed in me. And for example, Grand Prix is probably one of the larger Eastern European importers out of St. Louis, Apollo Fine Wine and Imports out of New York, Croatian Premium Wines out of Boston. These are importers that are very large, and they believed in a small, brand new distributor opening up in Atlanta because there was a lot of trust involved on both sides.
I love it. Hey, and on that note, we want to thank you on behalf of John Hui Radio for the free bottle of champagne that you provided for us. It would definitely be put into small, effective, good use. So, hey, big shout out, appreciation, love to you. This is a champagne. Tell us about this bottle, by the way, because I mean, I know a little bit about it, but not much. The free bottle that you provided to us.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, that's SCO champagne. And so that is a recipe from the Soviet Union. That they actually were in the race to form a champagne along with the Parisians. And in 1905, Sovetsko Champagne actually won the Champagne Award in Paris. And in the process, they were grandfathered in to where the Russian Sovetsko Champagne can be called champagne, although the grapes were not produced in the Champagne region of France, obviously.
I love it. Hey, contact
champagne.
Hey, and we appreciate that once again from Grbenich Wines, John Hui Radio, a free bottle of champagne. Ha ha. Listen, any contact information? How can persons, individuals, partners get in contact with you? Is there anything you want to share in terms of persons, how they could reach you or even contact you via email, phone? What's the best way?
Absolutely, y'all. Please go on our website. Grbenich Wines Incorporated is the company, and the website is GrbenichWines.com, GRBINICH wines.com.
There you have it, Miss Margot Grbenich. Thanks for joining us. Continue luck, and we'll definitely be in contact with you. Hey, y'all keep it locked right here.
And Jubilee in Croatia. Cheers.
Music, interviews, podcasts, and so much more. John Louis Radio, next level.